Dead by Daylight starting May off and the final chapter of the year with a bang. With not only just a new Survivor, but reworks to age-old mechanics. But the question is, are the changes in Survivor good, or they shouldn't fix what wasn't broken? Well, let's talk about it.
I got you. You're gonna be alright. This cannot possibly be real. My name is Orela. I'm here to help.
This update comes with the usual changes you see every update, but unfortunately, Dead by Daylight has gone woke. And I don't mean the new Survivor Orela Rose being the first original character to be trans, which is lovely to see, but I'm talking about them removing the piss from the uncommon Rarity. The entity must have been on Nickelodeon's Kid Choice Awards because my escape gate's got fucking slime on it. On top of all that, they also reworked how dailies and tome challenges work, so let's get into that a little in a section I'm just going to call Fortnitification.
What is wrong with you? Why are you blue?
Okay, it's mainly just a piss take, but yes, they've done some small change to the Rarity system. Essentially, uncommon yellow is replaced by green, with rare now being blue, which you see in almost every modern game. But they've still got the pink eerie, well, now called visceral. However, legendary is gold now instead of pure white. There's some new rarities too, so it's gonna take some time to get used to. But I just have to say that I dislike this change. I understand why to mainstream it, but the blue just feels out of place and makes the game lose a lot of its uniqueness with its own rarity colors. Fortunately, Iridescent, also now called Visceral, is hanging on for dear life. With my tad annoyance about colors in a fucking video game aired out, let's go into the other thing, the completely reworked, which was the rituals now called quests. It's a system, alright. It feels a lot like when the banner and emblems came out. It's so bare bones and by the books. Almost every online game nowadays has this in some way. It's hard not to compare it to Fortnite's. Can't wait for the Open 7 chests in the Garden of Joy weekly. The Dredge is gonna love that one. Joking aside, I think there's potential, especially with them making dailies way more accessible than just do X as X. They at least kept the tomes, you can complete them on top of the challenges you already have with this new system, and you can complete quests simultaneously, which is pretty neat. The rewards feel just way smaller though, and progression through the tome just feels soulless, and the fact there's no new lore tidbits just sucks. But I'm holding off that, just like the emblem, 6 months from now, we have a worthy successor to tomes. But with the two things I have the biggest gripes with, well, except for another one, let's talk about the star of the show. Orela Rose is the newest Survivor, as said previously, and is voiced by Angelica Ross, a person I've never heard of, but she seems to be fairly big in television, so that's neat, and she does a great job, even if I'm not the biggest fan of her dialogue. Well, except for things related to Sabre Ward, I love when characters reference each other and make the world feel lived in, especially with her show being her podcast. Her story is very straightforward, and you can make the joke that she's the evolution of Claudette in the medical world, at least, being an EMT, which means that, yes, every perk is either healing or related some way to her job, so let's talk about them and their synergies. Do No Harm is a pretty nice healing perk, 50% for each hook, maxing out at 100%, and also increasing additional percentage bonuses on healing up to 6%, which is all nice, but for healing perks at least, I think there's better at its job. Body Knowledge is a flat 50% with the downside of medkits losing more charges to counteract solo healing. Boon Circle of Healing is 100% with the downside of being locked to an area and breakable. And a base kit perk will make it, kinda has the same effect, but only when you unhook it on a timer. I do honestly see a niche for this perk, however, and could possibly be paired with Botany or will make it, but honestly, I'm not too sure how good this perk will be in the long run. We'll just have to wait and see. I can see it being really useful on just regular survivors, but like tunneling killers? Nah, this is not going to get too much value. Duty of Care is pretty crazy, but not exactly end of the world. Basically, when you take a protection hit while healthy, all the survivors around you in a 12-meter radius go 25% faster for 6 seconds. And if you run something like Overcome, you can go zooming with them. Protection hits can be a tad wonky in Dead by Daylight, since the survivors has to be injured for it to be one, and some abilities counteract it. But in a real scenario, it's to give that final push for a survivor. For example, if you're about to get out during the endgame collapse. For the most part, it's an anti-tunnel perk with a fairly simple activation. The only downside is it'll be pretty pointless against killers with insta-down abilities, or can hit multiple targets like Dracula's Fire or Pyramid Head. But that's only 10-20% of the roster. I don't think it's a problem, but I like Do No Harm. It's too early to say how it will shake up the meta, but as someone who likes M1 killers, it's going to be pretty tough for me. Unlike, Rapid Response makes you treat the lockers like it's the doors of an ambulance, bursting out of them to save the day, at the cost of being exhausted for 30 seconds. However, other exhaustion perks work with it than the intended use of opening lockers. It's an insanely simple perk, but it's countered by that evil, no-good, undetectable status effect. And that's it for her perks, and Orela herself. Just a solid original survivor from behavior, and that's all we can really ask for. She may not be the next Saber Ward, but I know people will relate with her, and for them, that makes them happy. Even if some people may be using her for the lack of sound she makes currently. If only they can balance Survivor's audio like they do with the game. Horrible segue, I know, but let's just talk about the balance changes. Every update's got to change up the meta. However, before I just wanted to bring up originally they were going to remove haste and hinder stacking, but they changed their mind, and I'll sit on my fence on it. I kinda get why they wanted to do it, but the change was messing with specific killers, making their base kits or add-ons pointless. Something they actually fixed with a singularity. I think there's good chance it will come back, and if they do, I suggest just, instead of removing the stacking, just have a specific speed the killer or survivor can't go past. Spitballing numbers, I'd say killer maybe 20%, or survivors maybe 10%. It would make survivors fast, but M1 killers can still catch up. But I'm just glad they gave up on it for the time being, as I like running haste builds on Clown. But on the changes that actually went through, the Doctor can no longer shock people repeatedly to stop hooks, which is an overall just quality of life change for Survivor, no longer being able to save due to the evil Doctor. The situation is very niche and only by people who are losing, so I don't think it'll affect Doctor all that much. Houndmaster got nerfed, I'm not sure exactly why. I do wonder if it's to try and counteract how buggy Snug is when vaulting, but who knows, honestly, just weird to see all things considered. Kaneki got changes that weren't originally in the PTB, mainly to fix the break change they made in the fast patch, and making the annoying Enraged palette battle feel like there's actual counterplay, which is very nice to see. Warning, if you thought I hated the previous Oni changes, you fucking see nothing. Behavior, buddy, I love you, but for the love of all that's unholy in this cesspool of a realm, stop fucking with the Oni. He's unironically unplayable if you have a sensitivity over 1. Honestly, getting over the new feel of the Oni previous patch actually felt nice on controller, which was your original plan. It was a small downside for PC, yes, but this change is not the answer. This is a cry for help. But if you want to keep going in this goddamn direction, behavior, one simple suggestion. Why not let the killer decide on the turn rate cap? Or more importantly, why not let killers have specific settings? They're not survivors. And I'm not talking about hit markers or anything like Overwatch, but I'm just gonna say it. I am not gonna turn my sensitivity to 0 just to play one killer, even if Oni is my pocket main. But I doubt they'll revert anytime soon. So honestly, I probably just have to move on to another killer, which pisses me off. But what can you do, honestly, mate? With that all out of my system, let's just move on to the perks, which it's mainly just increases the haste boost. They did this since they were going to remove haste stacking, but since they changed their minds, it's just a buff for the sake of it, which is neat for the perks affected. The only real perk that got changed that isn't a haste buff is Pentimento nerf. Survivors can see the totems within 60 meters and halving the initial value of gen regression while adding healing to the mix. It's minus 35 on healing and regression, and the old blocking effect is still there at max. I can say that with everyone, that it's a really good change, especially in solo queue, which was the part that really felt the Penti strain the most, so overall, healthy change. If we just pretend that they didn't kill Oni's ankles so hard he needs to use that cane for real this time, it's pretty by the books changes, and with that, let's just wrap this up. Post-editing me here, and I forgot a couple of things. They add protection to survivors when they spam the unhook interaction, and you eventually get forced to do it. I think it's 3 to 4 times, but I'm not too sure. They also added on failing skill checks right as the interaction is stopped, which has been needed for way too long, but it's here, so that's a yippee from me. But the most important thing is they actually added pre-equipped loadouts, so when you have a new person that plays the game, they already have some things they can, mess around with. They'll have one of the teachable perks on the Survivor straight away, which is really nice. They also have the perk previewer, and it's really nice. People usually who just, play the game for like 1 second, they won't use add-ons or perks or anything. Geordie, I know you're watching this, and I'm directing this at you. Use perks, mate. This is literally telling you to use perks. But that aside, it's going to be really nice for those brand new players, or people who have 400 hours and just don't use perks because they don't know how to do it. I'm not joking. This is going to get off script for a second. That man unironically thought that the RPD offering gave you stat boost if you played Leon Kennedy. That man is cooked. Alright, but now let's just wrap this video up. God damn it, Geordie, I love you, man. I'm gonna be real and just say that it's really unfortunate this update came out only a few days before the biggest chapter in Dead by Daylight's history is going to be teased, and will be out by the time this video is uploaded. Orela Rose is a cool survivor, and her perks are neat, but original survivors aren't all that crazy. They still all play the same, and the perks are by the books. It does undermine what she adds, especially for the people in the community who are trans. But at the same time, the Fazbear train is coming to the station, and I've got my VIP tickets. Joking aside, Orela is cool, and this update is buggy in places and fine, all things considered. Well, except for the only changes and all the game-breaking bugs. But with that all said and done, thank you for watching this video. I severely doubt I'll post a reaction video to the anniversary. I usually can't keep up with all that stuff, especially when the stream takes place 12 AM Australian time, and I work tomorrow. But how do you feel about Orela Rose? Who do you think they're going to add from FNAF? That is in the other Springtrap. I personally really wanted the twisted ones. Could make for a cool killer concept, but let's keep that Faz talk for June. But for now, have a lovely day.